This is Marietta from the Business Champion Show. Every week, I sit down with people who build our communities, small business owners, dreamers, and doers who turn challenges into opportunities. Their journeys remind us that success is about heart, courage, and connection. Join me as we celebrate the champions among us, right here in Connecticut and beyond. Visit thebusinesschampion.com and be part of our growing community. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the Business Champion Show. I'm your host, Marietta Cameron. Is the 9 to 5 workday becoming obsolete? Why work is changing? That's our topic today. For generations, the formula for work was simple. Get a job, work 9 to 5, stay loyal to the company, retire one day. But today, that model seems to be shifting. People are changing jobs more often, working remotely, freelancing, starting side businesses, and many companies are struggling to keep employees. So the question becomes interesting. Is the traditional 9 to 5 job becoming obsolete? Or are we simply watching the workplace evolve in real time? Today on the Business Champion Show, we're going to explore how the way we work is changing. So let's get started. You're tuned in to the Business Champion Show. I am your host, Marietta Cameron, on the web, thebusinesschampion.com. So where did the 9 to 5 workday come from? And some people say, who cares? No. We do have to care because most people believe the 9 to 5 workday has already existed and it has always existed. But that's actually not true. The system developed during the early 1900s, roughly between 1920 and 1940. Before that time, many workers in factories worked 10 to 16 hours a day, often 6 days a week. At that time, reformers pushed for a more human schedule, summarized by the phrase 8 hours for work, 8 hours to rest, 8 hours for what we will. One important moment came when Henry Ford introduced a 5-day, 40-hour work week in the 1926 in his factories. This was considered revolutionary. Eventually, many companies followed. So over time, the structure became the standard Monday through Friday, 8 hours per day, roughly 9 to 5. This worked well in an industrial and office economy because factories, banks, schools, and offices all needed people working at the same time. Makes sense, right? So, what is changing today? Today, we live in a very different world. Technology allows people to work almost anywhere and from anywhere. We now see remote work, freelancing, consulting, online businesses, side income streams. Younger generations often value flexibility and autonomy more than the idea of staying with one company for decades. At the same time, companies are asking new questions. Why don't employees stay long anymore? How do we manage remote teams? What motivates workers today? I thought about all of this. So, I think also the big question is the 9 to 5 workday was designed for factories and office buildings. We know that. I said that. But today we live in a digital, connected world. That's the difference. So the question becomes, is the 9 to 5 job disappearing or is it simply evolving? And I'm going to give you my opinion. I think it's evolving. There will still be jobs 9 to 5. It has to be. But let's see what it's all about, the evolving part. So I do have some questions that I put together for you. And there are questions here for you, my audience. So, and as you're listening to me, Ask yourself. So, so here it goes. Do people still want a stable job with one economy for many years? Ask yourself. And there's not one answer. There's multiple answers to all of this. I think many people still do because people still want stability, a steady paycheck, benefits, and predictable work hours provide security for families, mortgages, and long-term planning. Yes, I agree with that. But we're talking about just employees. We're not talking about business owners and self-employed people. So many people, I'll repeat it, many people still want stability, a steady paycheck, benefits, and predictable work hours for providing security for families, mortgages, and long-term planning. Some workers say, I don't want five different jobs. I want one place where I can grow and feel secure. Well, I agree with that too. I wouldn't want five jobs. And there are people that have five jobs. They're all part-time jobs, but they manage somehow. I remember in one of my shows going back talking about my parents' era, my mother had three or four part-time jobs. She had one in the morning, noontime, and three jobs, beg your pardon. So she had three part-time jobs, 5 days a week, plus the house, plus the garden where they grew vegetables, and a house to take care of, a household to take care of. But let's see what other answers we could have. Many people today are less willing to stay with one company for decades because they have seen layoffs, restructuring, and companies closing with little warning. I went through this when I was an employee. I was an employee for 14 years with a paycheck, yes, an employee for companies. I went through the layoff in the early 80s. And every day people talked about at lunchtime and, oh, have you heard this and that? And they were scared what department they would actually start with to eliminate people. And this went on for a while, at least 3, 4 months. And after the third month, I said, the heck with this. I'm looking for something new. I can't. You're absolutely right. I am giving you my opinion. First of all, I would never work for one company unless it's a project assignment. That's different. As an outside contractor, as an employee, I would never work for one company and then stay till I'm old and gray, till I'm retirement. Absolutely not. No, you just, there is no security. That's all illusion. So constantly, companies are restructuring and companies are closing with little warning. Constantly, yes. So, but some workers say loyalty doesn't protect you anymore. That's true. I just went through that as well with a person I worked with. 19 years he worked as a part-timer, a valued part-timer for the weekend. And you could set the clock. They could always call him. He was available when others weren't. That was his job. And you know what? They replaced him last year with four different people, which is really a good idea. But you know what? They didn't even discuss it. They're letting him hang, meaning they didn't take the keys from him or anything. He just doesn't get any more assignments. The same thing. No, 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 no. We have to protect ourselves. I'm all for that. So we know loyalty doesn't protect us anymore. And also, I want to tell you, it depends on the industry. In professions like healthcare, education, or government jobs, long-term employment is still common. But in tech, media, and startups, job mobility is almost expected. You hear that? In professions like healthcare, education, or government jobs, long-term employment is still common. But in tech, media, and startups, job mobility is almost expected. There you is. So there's not one answer just one answer to one question. Absolutely not. Okay, let's move on. Next question. Do people today prefer flexibility and independence? Okay. Yes, flexibility has become very attractive. So many workers value flexible schedules, remote work, time with family, avoiding long commutes. So freedom has become part of what people consider quality of life. Now, this would have been great for me when I had a young family. When I was starting off with a young family, my daughter was still young, under two. I had to have babysitters and this, that, and the other. However, the kind of work I was in, I wouldn't have been able to do work from home. It was just not acceptable. It was not in the 70s. That was just not the common thing to do. So, but let's just say it had been available in the 70s. Huh? I would have saved myself a lot of childcare um, cost. So freedom has become part of what people consider quality of life. Yes, but also independence comes with uncertainty. Freelancing or contract work can provide freedom, but often lacks benefits, retirement plans, or job security. So let me say to that, I've been self employed for 43 years now. I was never after job security, but I was always after my health. Health is number one. Retirement plans, I wasn't after that. Lack of benefits. No, I have my own benefits. So it depends on the person. So I've been doing contract work, freelancing for 43 years, for crying out loud. If I was after retirement plans and job security, I would have never been. My God, please come on. So, some people prefer structure. Not everyone enjoys managing their own schedule. Well, they're not capable because they have never learned. I had to learn that too because I was the most unorganized person you can imagine. I was supposed to sit at the desk and make phone calls, and you know what? Working from home, um, that was quite a challenge for me. So, but yes, some people really enjoy the structure. They don't want to manage their own schedule. They need to be told what to do. So many people prefer clear work hours and separation between work and personal life. Okay, that's okay too. You just really have to know your limits. That's all. So, but that's not for me. So, is working from home improving life or creating new problems? That's the next question. I think it improves life for many. Working from home can reduce commuting stress, allow more family time, and improve work-life balance. Let me say something to you. I had 1 hour commute to work, 1 hour commute back home. We did that for 10 years. Every 2 years, we had new cars. My husband at the time took a car. He went separate, I went separate. Just simply because sometimes I had to stay late at work and it just didn't work out for us. And it was boring as anything because you want to unwind after work. You might want to stop in with some friends or some colleagues for happy hour and everything. Now that I couldn't do because I knew I had to pick him up in the town that he worked in, and then we went straight home. Now I don't. No, that's not for me. So, uh, but the commuting stress, looking back, it was a lot of stress. I liked the schedule I was on because I had to leave the house at a certain time to go from A to B to meet the people we carpooled with. So we were never able, to be late or anything. So that was all. That it had its good sides too. But overall, it's a commuting stress. I wouldn't want that life anymore. Having to be on the road, and that was from bad, really bad weather to everything. But when you're a little in your younger years, let's just say, the weather doesn't become that big of a deal. I think some people just make bigger deal of it when the first snowflakes come because they're being spoiled. They're working from home, and I think I'm one of them. So I don't necessarily like to fight the snowstorms and the ice and everything. I think I've become spoiled. And my respect goes to all the industry, like the truck drivers. They go snow, ice, storm, whatever, and they're on the road all the time with that big rig. I tell you, I don't think I could do that. Anyway, also the question is working from home improving life or creating problems? So answer two, because there's not just one standard answer. It can blur boundaries. Some people report working longer hours, feeling always on, and struggling to separate work from personal life. Now, folks, come on. I'll repeat this. This is an easy thing to do, but you have to learn how to undo that. Some people report working longer hours, feeling always on, and struggling to separate work from personal life. Now, as a boss, I would say to the people that report working longer hours, so what? So what? And you know what? You're not always working. There are times when you have a little slower pace, and there are other times when the pace picks up a little more, or you having to work in solving a problem, so it goes faster, or it goes slower. So don't look at the hours, for crying out loud. Just look at the results. Feeling always on, that's true, but there's nothing wrong with that either. So it keeps you on your toes. That's what I tell myself. I mean, please, come on. And struggling to separate work from personal life. That's something you have to learn on your own time. You have to make time. You have to leave the house, go to the fitness, or go whatever you need to do. So that's something I'm not going to give you advice on. But this is not a big deal. A lot of people make a big deal. I rather do that than sitting 9 to 5, sitting at a desk and doing two things, and that's all I do for the rest of my life. You're not growing that way, let me tell you. Now, what is answer three saying? A social connection is missing. Offices provided daily interaction, teamwork, and spontaneous conversations that are harder to replicate online. Some workers feel more isolated. Yeah, that's true, but come on. We're not going to work for the buddy system, and I remember we did. It was nice to see all the coworkers and every day, and yes, it is. But you know what? As you go a little further in your work life, that shifts too. So if you're the type of person that cannot work by yourself, well, then you have to go into an office. I mean, I rather work by myself. I don't need 3, 4 people around me. I don't, especially if you have to complete the work yourself, unless you need the 3, 4 people, to do a joint project. That's a different thing. And you have to get on the phone, or you have to start emails. And that's a whole different thing. But come on, social connection is missing. Come on. That's not why I would go into an office for the interaction and teamwork. No, I can have the interaction and teamwork just like I do here with my television people. We don't sit all in one studio. No, I have my own studio. So, but I'm still interacting with them all the time, and I feel connected. So it's a mindset. So I don't buy that at all. Okay, next question. Do companies expect loyalty from employees while offering less security? Do companies expect loyalty from employers while offering less security? Hmm. Many employees feel this way, really. Workers often say companies expect dedication, overtime, and loyalty, but layoffs can still happen quickly when business conditions change. Yeah, that's the way it goes. That's as hard as anything. That's it. Boom, boom. That's it. Next. Yeah. So, if I was in a situation dedicated overnight and loyalty, I have loyalty to begin with, so that's not something that I would make sure that I get paid accordingly. So they have my loyalty and that I get paid what I need to get paid for. Anything else, we have to learn that layoffs still happen, irregardless of what I brought to the table or what we all brought to the table. That's just a fact of life. That's the business life. That's the rhythm of a business. So yes, they expect it as they're operating and they're paying us for it. And they expect loyalty and overtime as long as you get paid for the overtime. But when they need to make a change, you're out the door. That's it. It's just one breath. I didn't even need to take a break for that. It's one breath, I said it. As long as we know that, we can prep our minds for it and we don't feel hurt or devastated. It happened to me a couple of years ago, less than 2 years ago. It came unexpected. It came unexpected. And let me tell you, it doesn't feel good. I'm all with you. And it took me several months to really renew, to reinvent myself. I have to tell you. And it's like a new path. I'll make a show of this of that some other time. And but just tell yourself that's the rhythm of any business. They got to do what they got to do. So as long as it works, as long as they can pay you, that's it. But know that. Okay. Now, companies also face pressure. So businesses deal with changing markets, global competition, and economic uncertainty. Some companies say they cannot promise lifetime employment anymore. I grew up, my father, in the 60s. I was a little kid. And I grew up in Germany. And, in Germany, they poo-pooed anybody that did job hopping. Most people didn't, but there were some people that went from job to, they wouldn't even hire them. It makes sense. Nothing is forever. I said that in many of my shows. So whether it's a company or in your personal life, nothing is forever. So while we're working, get paid what you need to get paid and give your loyalty. That's what I do. I believe in that. So, the relationship between employer and employee is changing. Yes, sirree. The old model of lifetime employment is slowly being replaced by a more transactional relationship. So both sides are adapting. I like this. So the relationship between employer and employee is changing. Old model, lifetime employment, that's being replaced by a more transactional relationship. Yeah, makes sense to me. I'm in agreement with that. Would work for me. Now, what does a successful career look like today compared to 30 years ago? 30 years ago, success often meant staying with one company, moving up the ladder, building a pension, long-term stability. You got it. And when mothers would tell their daughters, that's the kind of guy that should be a husband. That's what yeah. Civil servants were were in because you couldn't fire them. They always had their steady paycheck. Well, not for me. So today, success means learning new skills frequently, changing industries, building multiple income streams. I'm all for that. Balancing work with personal life. That has to be learned. I'm still working on it, but learning new skills frequently, changing industries, very important. Building multiple income streams. It's a must. It's a must. So, and balancing work with personal life. So for some people, success today is not only about income, it's also about freedom and control over time. Yeah, that's what it is. So in closing, the 9-to-5 workday shaped generations of workers. But today, we may be entering a new chapter. Whether you prefer stability or flexibility, one thing is clear. The world of work is changing, and we're all part of that story. So, till next time, I'm Marietta Cameron.